Your top 10 decks for December 2024. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more. I was going to be starting off with Malice over here. Now, this is kind of interesting because I don't really know how Malice is going to adapt in the TCG. The thing that I think, all kind of understand is this deck is going to build boards, and it's going to throw big firewalls at the opponent, and the opponent's going to have a hard time kind of understanding what's going on here with this deck. And it's also essentially a Cyber's pile, which means, access code talker kind of turns into a free OTK button because every one of those pieces that you remove from the graveyard can potentially turn into a pay 900, revive itself as you're going for game. Yeah, that's a fun little thing to know about. I think that this deck has some very strong potential. That's why I'm putting it at the beginning of the top 10, because I want to see where it's going to find its place at in the meta as things kind of start to unfold. But once again, this is one of those situations that you just kind of got to admire the new deck entering into the town, and is going to be something pretty crazy. Kashtira. Now, this was a little bit hard to put here because I really wanted to mention it with Fiendsmith, and I do think that the Fiendsmith variant of this deck is particularly strong, but we kind of reached that point right now that Kashtira as an engine and as a deck has definitely turned out to be something quite interesting. The mid-range control options of Fenrir and Unicorn getting to look at your opponent's extra deck, especially when your opponent's playing, these fun little one-ofs out here. You're able to get in there and you're like, oh, hey, that's really cool. Let's go ahead and steal one of those options that you need in order to kind of continue to play the game. And unfortunately, that's where our issues kind of start to lie as to why Kashtira is back doing its thing. It's kind of funny because, this is only sparked in the most recent YCS out here that Kashtira was coming back. I am kind of curious to see for future where this deck lands, but I'm leaving it in top 10 just to see. Now, Fiendsmith variants. This is kind of where the Kashtira hype train kind of fell to, but we recently had an Unchained version, or like a Magical Musketeer Unchained hybrid pile. Basically, you're using these Unchained cards to kind of help you as consistency enablers do full combo, essentially. One of the scariest things we saw of this deck was like 20 plus hand traps out here, which is nuts. Like, you're just 20 card hand trapping your opponent and building a relatively strong field off of your one card package. Yeah, that's as consistent as it actually sounds. And it's actually kind of absurd to me that we're back at the point that this is viable again. We didn't have a lot of hand trap variants shining. I kind of am wondering if Ryzel will kind of naturally correct this, and that this, current trend will fade off. But for now, we're going to leave it here based off last YCS results heading on into this new format. See what people are going to do. Centurion, this is interesting. I know there's been a lot of interesting comments to this video. I do find it just, it's cool to see that Centurion has had its own identity. We've talked about this. We know that, the deck just genuinely being able to do things is very, very strong. Depending on how Ghost Ogre's presence kind of rolls into this next format, might dictate some of Centurion's placement in the meta. I love ogring, cards. It's really, really good. This deck is also still really, really unpleasant to play against. But if you go second against them, you'll usually you'll do pretty alright. Oxwell usually ends up being the pain in the butt, honestly, and it also depends on if your opponent's able to see Field Spell. If your opponent can't get to Field Spell, you're probably going to be dealing with a pretty mediocre game, and you should be able to overcome that relatively well. But from what I'm seeing here, just kind of pay attention to the plays that the Centurion player makes. It's not that hard to hand trap. Ritual Beast. This is, I can't believe that this deck came back into the meta at the rate it did. I genuinely am so happy to see Ritual Beast back, but it just kind of proves right now that Protoss got so much more love recently. And honestly, Protoss' seat in the room, I think, feels a lot stronger than it once was. Also, Ritual Beast can naturally play Shifter. The problem Ritual Beast is going to have to be afraid of right now, though, is with Malice creeping around the corner, Ritual Beast does not want to be shiftering them because they will take Ritual Beast and they will just do everything Ritual Beast wishes it could do, but like 90 times more recurribly, and build a scarier board than what Ritual Beast can do. So I am curious to know how the two big shifter baddies in the room are going to kind of compete with each other now that we have this new challenger kind of stepping into the arena. But alas, who's ready to see? Yubel. Oh, okay. Yubel's fall from grace needs to be studied. No, not really. Depending on how you play against Yubel, they kind of just, they build their board and they go. If you're able to crack it, or if your opponent doesn't open up the Nightmare Throne, I think most of their board is very, very suboptimal. I mean, yeah, they can put up some pretty cool things. The real key is Phantom. Typically, Phantom can be a pain in the ass, plus Phantom floating, but typically if you have a way to play through any of their damage reflection, this deck just has bad times trying to play around things overall. So yes, Yubel has continued to fall down the ladder a little bit here. I'm not saying that it's completely done right now, but at the rate it's going, it's going to continue to bump down a little bit. As every new challenger enters into the arena, Yubel continues to fall. I don't really know what else to say about this. Like, it once was a top dog, and welcome to power creep. You love to see it. Tenpai. Tenpai has been having a hard time right now. I'm going to be very honest with you. There have been threatening roars everywhere. Alright? Threatening roar is tearing people apart. And that's fine. That's good, actually. There needs to be cards to stop this deck present in the meta. My only major concern right now is Tenpai still has enough force out here that it's still squeaking into these top cuts, and it's still doing what it needs to do. It is nowhere near the level of domination that it once was. I'm going to make that very, very clear. But what we are continuing to see is kind of the same story. Me make synchro board. Oh, you dead? Okay. There's nothing else really to it, man. The synchro deck, the power that this deck has, still super outlandishly dumb. And I'm hoping on an upcoming list here, we will see this deck kind of get sent back to, you know, a fair point. Fire King. So you have a struggle out here between two variations of this, and I've separated them for the first time out here. Fire King feels like the more represented variant across the board in a lot of events. The only major funny I got to note here is, man, the amount of people that are playing these Fire King decks out here that are going to these events to do well, and they brick on all of these Fire King cards. It is actually insane how many times I've seen this. And I've even seen this from a lot of my local players who will play these lists that have done well, and they'll just be like, wow, I just bricked. Yeah, it happens. All right, it just feels like Fire King is exceptionally just the deck that tends to brick a lot more often than not. I am intrigued to see where Fire King is going to go from here on the evolution ladder, but man, oh man, if it's to stick around as the variant, it needs to find a way to unbrick. Pure Snake Eyes. Now, this shouldn't really surprise anybody out here. This deck has been the go-to for a while now. With the recent dial back on the deck kind of became fairer. I've noticed in a lot of top cuts, though, the Yasmina package, while it is a higher, reward, a lot more people are getting punished for playing it, just because it's kind of turned into a liability at this point. I don't really know what to say about that. I am not surprised to see consistency getting slashed out here by playing, certain bad cards. It's also just one of those things. It's like the Yasmina package was meant to save this deck, and because of all of the recent hits, we are expecting some future hits out here. We'll have to wait and see, when those do get delivered. But I think that this deck is going to go neck and neck. Like, we saw matching OCG results out here, to nobody's surprise. And Ryzel. Ryzel is projected to be your best deck out here. Now, you have Ultimate Slayers, you have a lot of things to kind of, change this. And a lot of people, I think, are expecting Snake Eyes and Ryzel to kind of compete with each other until a ban list drops. Now, who, when, where, why, or how, I think that the looming death clock on a list is a lot quicker than people expect. But Ryzel just has that consistency, and it has that splash ability. Don't get me started on the amount of variations that you can see to this deck. But I am most looking forward to seeing what people are going to craft up out here with this. So those are your top 10 decks for December 2024. This is the last month of the year, and we head on into 2025. So what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.